Lloyd. How are you?
Fine, Kimberly. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. We got some things to talk about today.
Oh, yes.
I want to know something from you. In all of your experience in astronumerology and even on the topic that we're talking about today, which is palmistry, something that you specialize in that few people know about, but we're going to talk about it today. How many of the people come to you asking for readings for relationships, partnerships?
Overwhelmingly, in fact, for doing this for decades, the two main ones is relationships or money and relationships. They seem to go hand in hand. I don't know why that's about. Rarely do they ask me about health. Rarely do they ask me about travel or any other thing. It's about romance or finance and romance. Those are all, they always be jockeying back and forth.
So they really want to just get down deep with it. They want to know, hey, is there somebody special that'll be coming in my life? Or is there some money that's coming up? They want to get deep into it. They don't want you to talk about anything else. Let's get to the bottom of it. Okay, understood. Since we're talking about relationships today, what type of relationships are you talking about? Because most people are, when they hear the word relationship, they automatically go to girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, partners, that type of thing. So when we talk relationships, what do you mean by relationships?
You know, you asked a lot of questions, but that one really tops the list because I tried to explain to people we're always in a relationship from the womb to the tomb. Our first relationship is with our mother, father, brothers and sisters, our grandparents, nieces and nephews, aunts and uncles, then friends in school. Then we get to the point of the puberty stages around about the teens where it's girlfriend, boyfriend, then eventually it's husband and wife. But we always, from the womb to the tomb, are always in some kind of relationship. But most people always take it about boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, romantically, you know? So the other day I was at a fair reading and people gave out one or two people had three or four options. You know, I notice people now have a lot of options. If it ain't working, then that's working. And but people are about basically relationships. In fact, that's all they ask, not about the money or the job or the career. None of that. It was about relationships. Would I get married? Having children, things like that. So it's just interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. And one thing that was really interesting that you said is that from the beginning, we are in relationship. And I can attest to that. Like we are in relation to something, no matter where you started from or how old you are, there is some relationship there in your life, even though you may not recognize it as a relationship, but that relationship is there. For me, the interesting thing is, especially when I'm reading Oracle, I don't like to get into that love reading, that relationship reading, because it can be difficult sometimes, especially when the person does not hear what they really want to hear. So, in palmistry, is that the case?
To a degree. And you know, it's interesting what people want to hear, but what they need to hear is even more important. And I think human nature is we hear what we want to hear. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to hear I ain't good for her. No, I'm good for her. You know what I'm saying? That's how it goes. And that's why I've learned when emotions come into play in a relationship, all common sense goes out the window. And you can say, you know, this person is not good, no good for you. I'm sure we all had that in elementary, junior high, high school, college about so and so and so and so. We're not having it. We're in love and she moves me or he moves me, and I got that feeling, and I'm going to go with that feeling. But if people understood the art of palmistry and how to look at the hands and where to look, they can save themselves a lot of wear and tear.
That's what we want to hear about today. But before we get into that, I want you to clear up the mystery with palmistry, because to be honest with you, before I ever heard you speak about palmistry, there was kind of like a misconception that I had about palmistry, because I always would see these signs up in the window that says psychic readings or palm readings. And I actually went to somebody that said they were a palmist. And the story they gave me, oh my goodness. And someone went with me and they told me not to tell anybody. And they told the other person the exact same thing they told me. So after that, until I heard you teach him palmistry, palmistry was a mystery to me. I didn't quite understand it. And there may be some people here that have heard palmistry before, but maybe they saw it in that window like I did, or had an experience like I did, and they did not get a clear understanding of what palmistry is. Can you break that down for us today?
Well, palmistry is an ancient art of studying the shapes of the hands, which means the fingers, the thumb, the length, and things like that, along with the lines and how these lines are formed. Now, you're in a different city than I am. I'm here in New York. This is like almost scam city, and you have these persons that have these uh, windows or signs up saying palm reading. Of course, it's like $5, $10. So you can let me give me some of my money. And what they're skillfully doing is asking questions and listening. And normally they know that everybody has a challenge: relationships, money, health. And for a couple of candles, along with some money, they can help a brother or a sister out. Okay. And in fact, just I swear, about a week and a half ago, there was a palm reader here in New York arrested for taking a lady to the cleaner for $80,000. Because what happens is, one of the things they will do is say you are cursed. The power of suggestion is amazing, which is why I like to say you either think for yourself or somebody will do your thinking for you. And with it, they'll say, well, you're cursed. And who want to be cursed? Nobody does, really. So then the question begs, they're thinking, well, gee, how can I get this curse off of me? Well, or bring me a couple of candles, and they'll start off with maybe a couple of $5, $10, nothing now, real small. And that's how it is. It's like they say, like a frog in the water. When a frog is in the water, when you turn on the fire, it doesn't even know it's boiling, and it just sits there. And that's kind of that analogy. It's maybe not the best analogy, but that's what happens. And they says, well, we're at this stage, and for a couple of dollars more, and now it's getting bigger and bigger. So this person, bless their soul, probably went in for about $5 or $10 and wound up leaving $80,000 in there. And this has been going on for eons, because people play upon one's fears. That's what it is. So, and then they'll say you're cursed. But the whole thing about it is, to me, it acts as a barrier. So if you read a roadblock, everybody meets a roadblock in life. That's how life goes. That challenges us. Sometimes we get kicked on our rusty dusty, but then do we get up? That is the point. Or do we lay there and wait for somebody to pick us up? And that's where they come in. And I can help you out. You need to bring me some candles. And it starts real small. You bring some candles. They light some candles for you. They bring some oils. And they even do some rituals in front of you to convince you. And so it makes you feel better. But it's not to say all palm readers are crooks. But in New York City, they got they got a little bit more than they need to. That's all I could say. So my whole thing is I try to teach it in a way that's informative, factual, but in a way that's entertaining, so people not have fears. Because a lot of these sciences, like a person said to me recently, "Oh, I don't want to read it because I don't want to hear nothing bad." Why does things have to be bad? But these are the projections they have, and so you can say, "Well, yes," and you ask questions and fool around and penetrate or find out what one of their weaknesses is. And it's normally in the area of relationships or love or affection or in the area of money, rarely in health. So it's in that. Because I read a lady, 84 years old, the other day in a wheelchair, and she wanted to know about a relationship. And her son and grandson was sitting there. And I had to explain to her son and grandson that, love is a thing that never stops. You know what I'm saying? But as far as her son was concerned, Mama, you too old to even be talking about this. But he's not 84 yet, okay? And the son is nowhere near the father. But see, as you go in this, you understand that love is lasting. I used to think that people, when I was a teenager, well, preteen, really, that people stopped kissing after 40, not understanding that as long as life lives, and as long as a person has a heart and feelings, it will always reign supreme. Now, maybe they're not as vigorous or it gets busier, but the point is, and I guess it's about companionship too, which is very important. But the things I hear, listen, it never ceased to amaze me. It's always about love. And that was the last lady I read yesterday uh, when I went to this fair, 84 years old. Her name was Daphne, bless her soul. And she wanted to know about how is her love life look. I told she's heading into a 6 personal year, which deals with relationships. So it's interesting. It's interesting, you know. So
She may be getting lucky soon then.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Now she may not think about the way we would at our age, in our age group. For her, maybe simple companion, a person to talk to, a person to share things, maybe even hold hands. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? But she was in a wheelchair and she wanted to know about it and she was serious. And I didn't, and who am I to judge? I don't just, girl, you too old. You need to be thinking about something else at 84 years old. No, I don't have that right. But what it tells me that despite her physical condition, her mindset was about the heart.
That's right. So that's a deep connection there. And I feel what you're saying because if somebody says, "Do you want me to read your health? Do you want to know about your health?" No, thank you.
Yeah.
No,
And
thank
she's in a
you.
wheelchair. She ain't had nothing even close about health.
I hope she finds it too.
You and me both. You and me both. Because she's entitled to. Who am I to judge a person? Listen, I have enough problems just trying to deal with my life, okay?
Yeah.
It's just trying to deal with somebody else's life. But I do try to be encouraging. And I'm not what is called like trying to fool a person or, you know, put them through illusions and stuff like that. But she just happened to be entering a 6 cycle year beginning in a couple of months. And I conveyed that to her and she felt good about it. And things like that are very important to a person. You know.
Sometimes all a person really needs is to feel hopeful.
Yep. Yep. A person one time says, Lloyd, every time you talk, you always talk about good news. Yeah, because everybody talk about what's bad. And especially in our communities, we are almost programmed to discourage one another. To not to say, girl, you're a genius. My man, you got a gift to someone. We hardly hear those things in our community. But we can give you 1,000 reasons why you ain't this and why you ain't that. And you should do this and do that. And I think it's just hundreds of years of programming. And yet we'll think other people are better than us, and that's not the case. And so programming, so yes, I'm going to be positive. That's my role. I don't BS a person. That's the difference. I don't, because a person can tell when you ain't correct. Okay, so I don't even try to go there. But I do, if I see a window that's positive, I'm going to open that window as wide as I can, and then they go from there.
That's nice. That's nice. And I think that's what we really need more of in our world and in our society. If we could have more people that just thought like that, it would be so much better.
We need to
So
have
thank
some
you.
bay windows and some skylights. Okay.
That works. That works. But sometimes, even with bay windows, you can be sitting beside a person that is, wow, a criminal and you don't even know it. You may be on the bus somewhere and you may run into somebody or they may bump into you and you don't even know who that person was that you just brushed up against. Tell us the simple way that you can get to know the people that comes in your personal space without even saying a word to them.
That would then enter the world of palmistry. So, for example, if you took the serial killer Ted Bundy had all the outward appearance of legitimacy, good looking, educated, suave, stuff like that. But he had somebody that taught him how to look at his hand and look at certain lines in the hands. It made a difference. That's why whoever came up with this, you can't judge a book by its cover, is more than you know. You really, really can't. So, and then we are a society now where it's about presentation, you know? We can have a big old box wrapped in a bow, and inside is nothing. You can have a person like the Wizard of Oz talking all that smack when you pull off the cover's little pipsqueak, raising all that sand, you know? But if one knows how to look at the hands and what to look for in the hand, they can save themselves a lot of emotional wear and tear and even their physical presence. Because there are signs of people, depending on the way certain lines are shaped in their hands, that could bring harm to their partners, you know? So palmistry is very old, very ancient. And this is the reason why what they do, they fingerprint you. That's what they do. And now what they do, they even take pictures of your palms too, because it's the lines in the hands, how it is shaped. So there are lines that are normal. It's like your face, right? Your eyes is above your nose is above your mouth. Now, if my mouth is where my eyes are, that's not the normal position. Although I've got a nose, a mouth, and the eyes, they're not in the natural arrangement. So no matter all the billions of people that walk this earth, because we all look different, some of us look alike, so to speak, but nonetheless, they all got the eyes at the top, the nose in the center, the mouth underneath. And so it is with the hand. There is your lifeline that goes around the ball of the thumb, your headline that goes across the center of the hand, and then your heart line that runs directly underneath the fingers. And if they're not in their normal positions, it tells me there's something not normal with that person. Now, I don't say, girl, there's something wrong with you, or like, yo, man, you you need some counseling. That's not my job. But I will tell them in a way as best I can interpret the lines, and then they go from there. That's all I can tell you. But it's fascinating. It's fascinating.
It is fascinating. And the interesting thing about the fingerprints, all they need is one copy of your fingerprints to match it. So if you ever, as a matter of fact, when you're born, have you noticed that that's one of the things they do? They take your fingerprints
And your footprint too.
and your footprints.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you can be identified for.
This is why crimes are solved 30 and 40 years after the fact, because they found some what they call latent prints laying around somewhere and then matched it up. Now everybody and their mother wearing tattoos, so they open up a tattoo division in law enforcement because everybody's wearing tattoos, and they take pictures of tattoos, and a person can say at the crime of scene, the crime scene of a crime, Well, yes, this person had on a rose, and on one hand he had an image of a lion, and they'll just look it up and see if there's a match, see if there's a hit. They'll put it into a computer. Now with the technology, they just put things in the computer and see if it spits out things. Now they've gotten sophisticated with your DNA, sample fluids from the body. This thing is nonstop. And now when you go into supermarkets, all you got to do is put your palm print on the machine and pay for your food. Isn't that great?
No, thank you. The buck stops here.
I don't do that either. No,
No, thank
no.
you.
This society knows enough about me as it is already.
That's some real what they call 666 stuff, the mark of the mark of the beast.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
no.
yeah. But that's what they do now. So you can either tap your card, you know what I'm saying, or now you can just. Whole Foods has that. They have that device. You just put your hand on there and it reads your palm, and no, thanks. So they call it making itself convenient for you, but it's actually more to have more control over you.
No, it's called. That's what they tell us. That is more convenient for
Of course
us.
it is.
But
Because
at
people
the
are
same
lazy.
yeah. At the same time, it's causing us more harm than really good. It's looking out for them.
Yes, and we will actually be controlled. So a person can look at a hand and find out whether they're normal, whether whether the person partner will die before them, or whether there's certain indications on the line where marriage will lead to a scandal, or uh, unhappiness. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things, and you can tell from the ages, and then tell about the children too. The number of children, whether they're going to be boys or girls, all of this is in the hand. And this is just a small tidbit in this relationship of studying the hand, which is why I'm going to be teaching a palmistry course on July 29th. It's a 4-week course to show people how to look at it. Of course, you're not going to be no expert. Nobody is an expert in 2 weeks, but you will have enough. And I teach what is called the power of observation or paying attention. That's all you got to do. But a lot of people are asleep. They're in their TVs or phones, which is why they can walk into pools in the mall, walk in the poles, because they're so busy looking down at their phone. They need to kind of look where they're going. And I've seen pictures of it. Guy walked into a pole, lady walked into mall. She walked literally into the pool in the mall. You know, where you throw your pennies at and stuff like that. People are not paying attention. And it's really not a good thing, but it just shows you how we've been captivated by the screen, whether it's a computer, whether it's a laptop, whether it's a phone, much less a big TV. And the TVs have gotten not only bigger, but they've gotten cheaper too.
That's what I thought. You remember when they used to sell the floor model TVs? It's like you had to be rich to get
You best believe it. Now you can get it for next to nothing. You know what I'm saying? They got
yeah,
them
to
on
give
sale.
them away.
So things have changed, and so people are now glued to it, and in a way, it kind of keeps one isolated too. So you don't have to go out. You can watch your favorite shows. You can watch your Netflix, your Hulu's, or whatever they got out there, other platforms, UB, 2B, whoever mother that is, and and you don't have to go nowhere. You don't have to go out and mix and mingle, and so therefore, you see a lot of parks are empty, not full of children the way they used to, or children in the street playing as I was coming up as a kid, where everybody was out in the street so their parents could get a break. The question becomes this: in the hand, where does one find the relationship indicator? Okay. And so it's where to look, and it's to look under what is called the Mercury finger. To give you an example, if you look at my fingers, the first finger is ruled by Jupiter, the second finger is ruled by Saturn, the third finger is ruled by Sun, and this is the Mercury finger. Now, the reason why the lines are found under the Mercury finger, because it deals with the mindset of the person you're dealing with. You see what I'm saying? And so, therefore, these lines normally indicate something. Normally, they come under the base of the finger here. They go this way. They all go horizontal. They curve. Now, a line that's nice and straight normally indicates that normally that will be a healthy and happy marriage or relationship. Okay. Now, they call them nowadays the marriage lines. In the old days, they used to call them the lines of union. In India, they call them the lines of attachments. Do we become attached to this person or attached to that person? It all depends on the culture where you go. Okay. So when I was in India, they were very much into the hands, the study of the hands, as well as numerology. But modern day call it the marriage lines. I call it the lines of union. That's what it was traditionally, which means when two people come together for a common purpose or goal. So normally it should. Now, then you have a line that's going straight, but then it forks. Okay. And it means that a person can be in a marriage, but they got separate interests. One person is interested in this, and the other person is interested in that. And there's no sense of acting as a sense of oneness. Okay. Then there is this. Normally the line should be nice and long, not super, super long, but decently long. If it's short, it means relationships that are like short relationships. No strings attached, no long commitments, a year or two or 3 or 4 or 5. It's just that, I'm here and about a year or two later, I might be gone. So the longer the line is going horizontal, the better it is about a lasting relationship. Okay. Then there's a case where the line goes and curves downward. If a person has a line going underneath the uh, base of their Mercury finger and it curves downward, that's an indicator that you will outlive the partner. Or if that partner has it, they're likely to outlive you. Okay. So that's one thing. I see your eyes going. That's interesting. That's how people do. They start making, Then another thing too, if the line curves downward, but it curves down in a fork, that means unhappiness in the marriage.
Mm.
So, that's one thing is they say nowadays it's complicated. Okay. Then another one, when the line is there and it ends in what is called an island in palmistry. So for persons who may not be familiar with that term, I call it it looks like a little teardrop. That rules scandal in the marriage. I mean, there's so many things to take a look at.
So you can have an island on the relationship lines too?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
No, I haven't personally seen it. I've seen short ones. I've seen it. Now, there's a case where you got a line and then above it, it has another line that kind of extends from it that indicates that this person may marry, separate, and then marry them again. Yes. And I mean, I'm sure you've heard of that people got married, separated, and then all of a sudden they said, well, we're going to get married again. That's the kind of line. The hands tell a lot. Don't forget, the hands record whatever's going on in the brain is recorded in the hands.
Wow.
And it gives you the mindset. That's why that line in the center, known as the heart line, that's going across the middle of the hand, that's the most important line to look at, because that will then tell you mentally the kind of person you're dealing with in the relationship. Okay. And the line underneath it, underneath the fingers, that's the heart line. That tells you the mental relationship. And normally that heart line should go and curve between the first two fingers. That's where it should end. But if you got a line where this top line is going over here to Jupiter, this is called a dictator finger. Didn't I tell you never to do that again? That's exactly what the person will have. And the other day I read 2 women just like that, back to back. And I told them, one had no problem. She said, yes, I bossed my husband around, me and my 3 daughters. She had no problems. She said it. And he was the number 2, born on the second. So numerically, men who are number 2, they either work around a lot of women or they got women supervisors. Well, he's got all them daughters and his wife is supervising him big time. Okay. And she made no bones about it, So you got to So by learning these ancient sciences, you're not caught up about the appearance of a person, because we all put on a good appearance. If I'm taking somebody out on a date, I'm going to wash, I'm going to get a haircut, I'm going to put deodorant under my arms, you know what I'm saying? And then about 3 or 4 months later, everything flames out. Listen, no, you can't eat off my spoon. No, I don't want to eat off your spoon either. You know what I'm saying? That's how it is. So we're all putting on a good impression. But if we can kind of remember that, and this is why you think so many people are unhappy with relationships, because it's all superficial. Oh, he's tall with no brain. Okay, he's short with a brain, or whatever the case is. But we're looking for these. They got to be 6 feet this, six that, 6-figure salary, six. That seems to be the going number. Okay, but everybody doesn't come in those dimensions. God has it that there are all kinds of numerical dimensions for us to deal with. And if one knows how to not look at what they see in front of them, but begin to take a deep dive, because what it is it's like an iceberg. An iceberg, 10 to 15% is above the waterline. So that's what we captivate. But what wrecked the ships and what wrecked marriages is the iceberg underneath it, that 85%. And we don't do a deep dive on relationships. Oh, they just make me feel a certain way. And yeah, but but you do you know how many women are abused? How many women are killed in relationships? Maybe instead of, and there's nothing wrong to follow a feeling, because that's the basic makeup of a woman. But nowadays, with such volatile, superficial relationships, it would be well to, okay, follow your feelings, but also follow some of the ancient arts of knowing what you're about to get into. Just save you a lot of wear and tear and frustration.
My question is this: can people that know palmistry look at their palm and maybe their partner's palm or mates or children, and if they find that there are some differences or disagreements in the relationship, can they look at the palm and be able to learn more about this person and how to deal with this person, and perhaps it'll help them come closer together, or it'll let that person know exactly how to deal with that person that they're with?
Yes, and that's a perfect example, like the two women I read the other day, where both had where the heart line at the top, instead of rising between the two fingers, went all the way over here to the first finger, which is control issues. So I made it clear that one of the challenges in the relationship is to be mindful, not to be over controlling. Well, the first woman had no problems about, yes, I'd run my house this way, and so does the girls. And so it sounded like the brother didn't have a chance. Okay, he was definitely outvoted. And then you got people that you can tell, and yet it don't mean nothing. For example, in palmistry, the thumb is the bulbous. There's a thumb where it almost looks like a little bulb. Normally, they used to call it the murderer's thumb, because when they would arrest people, normally the people who commit the most murders had the thumb that was kind of roundish like a bulb. And it rules the will. See, the thumb rules your will or lack of will and temper. And so, therefore, it's like, and I would warn a person, especially if they're in Aries or Leo, Aries, especially Leo or number 9, because 9 is fire, Aries is fire, Leo is fire by element. Okay. And what happens is, especially if this person indulges in alcohol, where, it lowers your libido, it's like a guy who's a Clark can't go into a bar. He drinks and think after a couple of drinks he can beat everybody up in the bar, you know. So I tell people, and I've told men that had thumbs like that, you got to be very careful getting into arguments, because you will have a person like that that will do something, and the next thing they've done something, they just blanked out, and the person they have could be going to the hospital or unalive, as they call it nowadays. So I will always, if I see something that's not correct, I will share it with them. Then it's up to them, because it can't be said we did not have this conversation. That's how I operate.
Well, you're lucky because At least they didn't dictate you.
True, true, true. Now, along these lines that's going horizontal, and this is a perfect example. The lines that says marriage lines, notice the lines are going straight across. If you notice, he's got two lines of union or marriage line. The closer it is to the base of the thing, the base of the heart line, the younger. So the first one started around about in the teens, somewhere about the late teens or 20s. The one that's up there is around about the 30s or 40s. And you can tell that the top one is longer, but it makes more sense because, you know, when you're young, you marry, but do you marry for the right reasons? It might be your first love experience, you know what I'm saying? But by the time you get older into a certain age, like your 30s and 40s and 50s, you kind of had enough experience to say, okay, as I move forward, I know the kind of person I want to be with. That was then, and this is now. It's that kind of situation. And you do see it's longer. Now, you see those lines that's going up and down? Those are lines of children. Those are the children lines. That tells you a lot. And what you do is you count outward. You count from the base of the hand. It counts this way. It counts going this way, from outside going in. The lines, those are perpendicular lines. The lines that are, for example, if you look at the top marriage line, you see how the line goes up and then forks? That may not be a healthy child. So this person may have children, but that particular child may have health problems or mental problems. Normally, they should be very straight or faint. The straight, distinct lines represent the boys. The faint ones represent the girls. Then they show you, I've had experiences where the woman has said to me whereby they didn't have any children, but when I looked at the side of their hands, I could see those lines going up and down. And what I will tell them is, even though you may not have children, it doesn't mean you may have lost a child or terminated a child. And 9 times out of 10, they will tell me that's true. So the hands record everything. That's the beauty of palmistry. This is why, yes, you may hide things within yourself, but when you study the hands, all of it's recorded. The brain records everything to the hand.
I have a question about the marriage lines.
Yes.
The second marriage line is counted short.
You mean the one at the bottom?
Yes, my question is this. Can that line have a possibility to grow longer throughout the person's life?
No, it normally normally when you're young, the lines are short because it's very, very rarely do you have a long line that close to the base of where the line bends here. Okay. It's normally as you go up, and it makes sense because as you get older, you get wiser, you make better decisions. It wasn't because you had your first sexual experience and this is all that's it. I'm in love now, you know, not knowing that, well, that part is true, but do you have the mental connection? Do you have the emotional connections as against the sensual connection? Because sex is a very powerful energy, which is how we all got here in the first place. So people will be into their feelings, but then they will find out after the excitement of that experience is over, now they begin to know this is why people begin to what is called outgrow each other. One will want to grow, somebody will not want to grow. The woman will grow, but the guy will want to play video games all day. Okay. You know, it happens. And vice versa. Or a guy wants to move up and the woman doesn't want to do anything except feel that she's entitled to just get everything and do nothing. These are the children. This is illustration. So if you look to the one on the right, where there are 3 lines, one is straight, nice and straight. Notice the one in the middle, it kind of leans, you know, kind of slants. It doesn't lean. But the one that's at the very far end of the pinky, that bends a bit. So that tells me there would be either something challenging about that particular child, either health, mentally, physically, or whatever the case may be. So all these little markers, especially if there's an island or one of the children, which means an island, for those who may not understand, is shaped like a teardrop. I call it a little teardrop, teeny tiny teardrop, because it denotes a weakness of any line. You find it. So if you look at that children's line, you look at the line that's going around the ball, and then that center line is curving down, which is the headline. If I see an island at anywhere on that, that means that there was a point of indecision on that line. So all these are like clues, like traveling. And it warns you. It all depends on how you look at things. So these things are absolutely amazing. Now, there's one thing about women too, having children. Under the wrist, these are called the bracelets, as if you had one, okay? They're called the bracelets. Normally, there are 3 of them, okay? The one that's closest to the palm itself, you will have somewhere it will actually dip inside. It'll make an arch curve inside of the hand itself. Normally, women who have this, yes, that's it. That's the 3rd finger, right? Now, had that arch curved into the hand, that means that you may have, or any woman would have problem bearing children, okay? And if it curves even more in the hand, this would explain it. I wish I could really have somebody do some research. That's why you have some mothers die in childbirth, okay? Because that ring, as they call it, will curve up into the arch. And those women that are childless or have complications with having children, or in a lot of cases, bearing children. So there's a lot to this. There's so much to this. And so this is why I'm going to teach my course. Now, I wish we could go into all of it, but that's why I want y'all in the room to join us on July 29th. It's a Tuesday at 7. And you will find that now, here's one right here. Now, this person has 2 long lines, okay, if you look at the hands. The first one, that indicates around about the 20s. The other one at the top, because don't forget, in palmistry, from the line to the base is 70 years old, okay, 70 years of age. And so this indicates that this one is probably about, the bottom one is about 28 or so, and the one about at the top is about 45 or something like that. But notice how the line curves down on the bottom one. That means that the reason why the second one is because he probably outlived the person he married. Because don't forget, when the line dips down, it means normally the person outlives the partner. Okay? If the line bends down and then breaks into a fork, that means there's unhappiness in the relationship, but that's not the case. It doesn't end in a fork, it just slightly slopes, which means he probably outlived his first partner. And then you can see like little lines going up and down. They look real faint. And so that would tell me, he would probably have more girls than boys. I mean, that's the beauty of what the palmistry makes you pay attention. The palmistry makes you observe. The link.
You have me paying attention today because I'm staring at my. If you two are like me, looking at your hands, trying to find these lines in your hand, please let us know down in the
I
chat.
looked at my hands mucho times, okay?
I'm seeing stuff I've never seen before.
Because we're not trained to look at it like that. And so with my students and people that I really care for, I want them to be as well-rounded as possible. No one is perfect, even I. And if you look at this one, you can tell, and look at the one in the center. See how it slopes down? The chances are probably that particular person outlived their partner. If you look at the one at the very top, it's not as long and it's faint, which means that might be a relationship, but nothing like a commitment. Because see, the stronger and the deeper the line, the more committed the relationship. The fainter the line, hey, you just had something to do, and you have somebody be dating each other 5 and 6 years, but they ain't going no further than that. Like where the woman would say, "Okay, honey, and you know? And so here, this one is kind of short. And ideally, that's the kind it should be straight, no bends or nothing. It's not long, but that's the ideal one. It shouldn't be irregular in its design. None of the lines should be irregular. But notice how close to the top it was in that one. See how close to the top? It's not down by the bottom where the line, where the pan bends at. But this tells me this relationship was up there in about the late 40s, 50s when this occurred. Hey, the attitude is better have love than no love at all. You know? So it tells a lot. So this person, much of their life, yes, it's not that they didn't have a girlfriend or somebody, but there was nothing that committed them to it. Until later on, when he reached probably past that crisis or midlife crisis, did he find somebody and therefore was happy? But it's, but it's short though. Okay. Now the next one you were showing, I think these are the lines that go up and down. Normally those are at the front, but they should be more to the side. And if so, they would be boys, but those are very long for children though. I don't know what those lines might mean at that point, but normally it's more to the side. The lines of unions going across and the children are going up and down. So a person may have two biological children, but their hand suggests they may have had two or three others that they either lost or they terminated or whatever the case is. And that's how I put it to a person. And especially women that say they have no children, I ask, can they look at their hand? And when I see those distinct not going perpendicular up and down, I tell them they either lost a child or two or terminated it. And 9 times out of 10, the answer I get is yes. So it's a lot. And so it isn't about me getting in their business, but helping them understand things too. And so if you notice, and this is a perfect example, although the lines is not, actually the ideal time to look at a hand is in natural light during the day. Then you got a person like me that has a flashlight where in certain situations, because in this setting here in my house, it would be hard. Yes, I could see the lines, but to really see them, really, I'd have to shine the light on them. So you should be by a window where you got plenty of light and see them. That's the best. And when it's come to children, if you're not sure, just squeeze the edges right here. And then you can, then you'll see the indentations come in too. There's a lot to this.
That's interesting. It is a lot. And the question that I was going to ask, but you've already answered that question. My lines are really faint, so I was going to ask how to better see them. But as you said, I should be near a window and I should make sure there's plenty daylight. And if all else fails, pull out my flashlight. So,
yeah, that's how you should do it. But I think you asked interesting question. But here in this case, you see, if you look at this and because those lines stand out, see, I would really need to see this naturally, which is what made me say, I understand this. They drew the lines, but for a person not experienced, the lines will be a distraction. But let's assume that these lines are. It tells me that because it's the one at the bottom indicates, don't forget, the base at the base where the hand curves is 0 and up to the top where it meets the finger actually is 70 years old. So this tells me the first one was roundabout in the teen years. The second one tells me it's about in the 20s. But that last one that's long, that indicates that's about mid-late 40s, maybe 50s. But that would make sense because of the fact when you're young and inexperienced, you don't know. But then as we get along in life and go through life's experiences and relationships and ups and downs, we begin to, hopefully to make better choices. Some people don't. But ideally, as a result, you should. But if people know this, they can come out the gate making choices, say, nope, I don't think this is going to last. And see, we are caught up about what people look like or what makes them feel, how that person makes them feel. So feelings can be in the moment. I can feel you now, but I ain't feeling you tomorrow. Okay. So I'm trying to get, so I know the women's nature is more designed to go upon feelings and impressions, and I think that's good. We men are more logic, but we men have feelings too. And so we'll be saying, gee, she's fine. Look at that body, look at that face and whatnot. And yet you'll have all the marks that says, man, there ain't nothing but red flags up in here. Okay.
That's that saying, what is it? Too good to be true.
Exactly.
So what I'm saying is I'm encouraging everybody, if you think it's too good to be true, if someone has told you it's too be good to be true, then maybe you should learn the art of palmistry for yourself so that you can protect yourself from these people like Ted Bundy. It's interesting that you brought up Ted Bundy because Ted Bundy, I think, is a 6.
Yes,
And
he's November
so
24th.
yeah, so that's Venus,
Yeah,
so people look at him and, I guess the women thought that he was very well
sure,
put together. And
sure.
of course, we know that they can be the teacher's pet, or
Yep.
he could get people to go along with him because he just had that type of demeanor. That's who he was. But people didn't know that there was another side of him. And if you would have looked at his palms first, you would have known that
There's
something
something was not
definitely
right. Yeah.
was not
So
right.
looks are deceiving, literally in every sense. If you notice, some of the greatest con men give you all the outward trappings of legitimacy and take a person right to the bank or take your money right to their bank, you know. So I've learned as a result of these ancient arts, I studied numerology, astrology, that okay, I know what I'm seeing, or no, I put it like this: I know what I'm looking at, but these numbers and hands will tell me I know what I'm seeing, and I'm going to always
Yeah.
do what I see. And so this course is for beginners, and it's to teach you, if nothing else, the power of observation, to pay attention, to increase your situational awareness of the people you deal with. I want them to click on the QR code. We've made affordable arrangements. We can pay in full or in increments of your choice. That's up to you. But the point is, you should be there to learn how to do this, to learn how to, and you be interested. You be reading your children. You be reading your mates. You be reading your name. After a while, you want to read everybody. Okay, uh, because it is fascinating. And just like the face, no hand is the same. None. And people don't know that the left hand and your right hand are totally different. The left hand is what you inherit from your mom and dad. The right hand is what you create for yourself. So people think their hands are identical. It's not. They are different. Oh, y'all need to take the course. That's all I'm saying. Just take the course. Don't take my word for it. Take the course and you'll see. And there's a lot of illustrations to get the point across, so you begin to see and teach you how to observe and learn. The length of the fingers, what does that tell you? The shape of the thumb, what does that tell you? The mounts underneath the fingers, what does that tell you? And we didn't even talk about the lines yet, the headline, the lifeline, the heart line, the line of sun, the line of destiny. I mean, it's like, yo, I'm glad I'm in this course.
Yeah, it'll definitely send you down the rabbit hole. I know that personally. I was reading everybody poems for months after that, and I'm like, wow, that explains everything.
Yeah, yeah,
So I feel like it's definitely a wonderful investment. Get to know the people that you're dealing with the most, because people are not going to come out and tell you everything. We have those different sides to us. We have that side of us that we show to everybody, we show to the world. Then we have that side that's the private side, and we have the secret side. So
yeah,
you never know who a person is at the end of the day. But if you can just wave at them, have them
yeah,
wave that really quick, you won't seem weird at all. Also, another thing that I love about this workshop is you get to bring your palms in. You get to bring in
Yeah, we
pictures
read
of.
your hands too, definitely.
Yes, yes, definitely. So make sure that you support Lloyd at Lloyd-Strayhorn.com, and you can also click on this QR code to go ahead and sign up. We only have 7 more days, so go ahead and make sure that you catch this. I don't know if you're going to be doing any more of these anytime soon, so catch it while it is going. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask you, do you have some final words for us today?
Yes, it's interesting. When Frederick Douglass and Aquarius gave his speech back in the day, he talked about the power of the hand. When Adam Clayton Powell of Sagittarius in Modern the 1960s says, "What's in your hand?" Your hand has more things than you can ever imagine. The hand is the most useful part of our bodies, other than our mouth that we talk and our ears that we listen and our eyes, because we do things automatically. We tie our shoes, we prepare our food, we feed ourselves, we put our clothes on. We don't even think about it. It's just so organic. It's just so natural. But that's one thing. But then when you begin to look at it from a more deeper esoteric point of view, it reveals a lot about the person. And so that's why I'm saying that a lot of times, a lot of people have gotten their feelings hurt or taken advantage of or misused because they look so nice. Yes. Do you think Ted Bundy would have told these women, you ain't going to be here tomorrow, okay? Because first of all, I ain't getting in your car, okay? I can get a bus, I can get an Uber, all right? So what happens is had they said, "Well, honey, let me hold your hand and just, like," and see that his headline was not normal. Well, I ain't gonna tell you all everything. Y'all got to come to the class. I'm telling you. That's all I'm saying. Don't take my word for it. I will show you how to do this.
Thank you so much. You shared a whole lot with us today, especially going into childbirth and the amount of children and the amount of marriages and the good marriages, the long marriages, the short marriages, the one that's kind of like here, there, everywhere. You showed us a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And I can just only imagine what it's going to be like on the 29th when you begin that 4-week workshop.
Yeah, because that
So
was just scratching the surface and it's like putting it all together. So it's like all the puzzles come together in a nice package. And so you'll be surprised. And yes, you'll be looking at a lot of people's hands. People don't know. Can I see your hand in a second? Because they're going to want to know why. But you start with your relatives, you start with your mates, you start with your children, you start with the people you know. And that's how you get your practice. Practice makes perfect.
and at the same time, when someone tells you for a couple of bucks that they're going to read your fortune, they're going to tell you that you're cursed, it's time to walk out. Then,
Yeah. And with rent being high, food being high, gas being high, clothes being high, and you mean I can get a reading for $5 or $10? Yes, you can. Step on in here, okay? And what they do is they begin as they question you in the reading. Once they can get a reaction, whether it's in the area of love or health or money, whatever it is, that's when they zero in. And that's what they play you for. And people, of course, we all want cures, we all want help, we all want some direction. And this is when, as I said only a couple of weeks ago, here in New York City, a woman was arrested for taking a lady to the cleaners for $80,000. But it didn't happen overnight. See, this is how sophisticated it is. Start with a couple of bucks, then just, hey, that was just $5 or $10. Then you get another money, and then but it all adds up. And by the time the lady had given this lady $80,000, bells went off. Like, yo, I've given her 80 grand and I've gotten nowhere other than when I first started. So just be careful and try to go to somebody reputable if you can, and just be mindful. Or so that's all I can say. But New York is tough. New York is a tough town. There. That's all I can say. New York is a tough.
Well, I wasn't in New York when that happened. So
It's everywhere, but the scheme is the same. But New York is even more sophisticated. They're more like, because they got a lot of people to work with. You know what I'm saying? Like millions of people in New York City. So these people got practice, and they make it so nice, and it to make you
of
drop.
course,
Yeah,
of
yeah,
course.
because they're about to take you to the cleaners.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah,
All 30,000, all 40,000.
yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing with us today that beautiful presentation about relationships and palmistry. We welcome you back anytime, and I want to welcome you all to come back because you know the first of the month is coming up soon, and this is going to be a big month. This is the month of
Leo
August.
season, and it's going to
Yay!
be an 8 universal month, and
It's,
everybody's in a position to make some power moves.
yeah, and it's going to be Leo season. So, how about
Sounds
that?
like sounds like you know a Leo.
I do know a few,
I do
just a
too.
few. Okay, so make sure that you all come back and join us on August 1st for our August astronumerology forecast for the month. This is going to be a big month for us. Once again, thank you, Lloyd.
You're
And
welcome.
until
You're welcome.
next time, you have a wonderful evening.
You too. Thanks so much, Kimberly. This was enjoyable. Thank you. Thank you very much.